So basically, I am an Indian citizen residing in UK for about 14 years. Um, and I was traveling on my holiday from London Gatwick to Japan via a transit in Shanghai. And basically, went past the e-gates, happily queuing up for the security gates to transfer onto my next flight onto Osaka in Japan. And one of the officials from the Chinese immigration came over and singled me out of the queue. Basically said, "Look, India, India." Took my name and something and took me out. So I asked her what is happening, and she basically didn't say much and just basically asked me to follow her. Took me close to the e gates where there is the immigration. The manual counters for the immigration, and then she went on to say, Arunachal, not India, China, your visa not acceptable, your basically passport is invalid. Very confusing moment, obviously, because never heard of that before. We obviously are a proud Indian citizens, all residents of Arunachal Pradesh. Um, and basically, she wouldn't give me an explanation. She wouldn't let me go back into the queue. Said you cannot board the plane. Then other officials came. So actually, I probably interacted with around 10 other immigration officers. So another lady came, took me to another part of the airport. And in fact, when I tried to question them and ask them what was the issue, they said Arunachal is not part of India very clearly. And they said you should apply, and started mocking and laughing and saying things like, you should apply for Chinese passport, you're Chinese, you're not Indian. Some mockery around there. Then basically they took me to the transfer desk of China Eastern, which is next to an immigration desk, and they would just keep basically sending me from one desk to the other. So if I ask the Chinese airline, they tell me to go to the immigration tells me to go to them. And they basically didn't give me a straight answer. I said, where is the law? What rights have you got to hold me back here? So ultimately, it took about 18 hours for me to get out of Shanghai. What is shocking to me is I have, in fact, transited through Shanghai in the past, a year ago, with no issues at all. In fact, the first time that I ever transited through China, I spoke to the Chinese embassy in London, and they said, with a short layover of about 3 to 6 hours, you don't need a visa. So obviously, I work actually in the regulatory space in London as well. So I know that how important rules are, and I'm well aware of the regulations. And obviously, I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing before I flew out. And obviously, I have transited very successfully and easily through Shanghai before, through China, having consulted the Chinese embassy in London. But at this time, I feel maybe it was the weekend. They knew that the offices are closed. The timing was as such that I couldn't actually call the Chinese embassy in London. So after a lot of ordeal, because there was no Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi was really slow, and even if I did get connected to Wi-Fi, you can't open Google, you can't open any of the socials like your Facebook or WhatsApp. So I couldn't get in touch with my family for a very long time. Ultimately, with a lot of harassment and basically no access to food, not allowing me to leave that part of the terminal. There wasn't a proper space given to us to basically rest after a 12-hour flight all the way from London. Um, at one point in time, because I kept going up to them every hour or so, asking them what is the issue, why they're holding me back, what legal rights or rules do you have that says that Indian nationals, and they would just dismiss every time I tried to speak to them. In fact, in a very unprofessional manner. There was one point in time when I was near the counter desk trying to speak to them, and there was about 3 or 4 airline staff of China Eastern and about 2 other immigration officers, and all of them were basically speaking in their language and saying and pointing out and saying Arunachal, Arunachal, and laughing and calling it China, no India. So that kind of very humiliating, questionable behavior from the immigration staff as well as the airline staff. Um, yeah, so it was quite an ordeal until finally I got hold of a friend, basically by calling using their landline. I basically said to them, look, I have legal rights. I need to call a lawyer or something. You have to give me ways to communicate with somebody. Nobody knows I'm stuck here. So I called up a friend in London. They helped me to basically get the details, because even if I had a little bit of internet, it doesn't open Google, so I couldn't find the immigration details. So I called up the Shanghai and Beijing Indian embassies, and within an hour, very very helpful, in fact, and very glad that the Indian officials came to the airport, and then basically they got me some food, and basically spoke through the issues with them and helped me get out of the country. So a very long ordeal, 18 hours, but glad that I'm out of there. Yeah, but obviously I've missed my flights, my all the plan that I had. It took a lot of time to even get the visa for Japan. I had all the right documents, everything. I don't understand, and I can even check on the rules. It says that you don't need a transit visa if your stay is less than a couple of hours. It was only there for 3 hours, but their argument was I don't have a valid document. I mean, I have traveled to 58 countries. I have used my Indian passport everywhere. It's a valid document, but apparently not in China.
I guess you also wrote to the senior officials as well. If you can talk to us about that.
Yes, I mean, so once I got out of there, obviously very exhausted. So the next day I looked up whatever details I could find on the internet. So I basically wrote an email copying in a Ministry of External Affairs, the PMO office, CM of Arunachal Pradesh, Foreign Secretary. So whatever information I could get hold of the higher ups in the government, basically I have written out to them. Obviously, such an incident shouldn't happen to someone who is just a normal citizen. Like, I don't even work for the government, so I don't have a say in such diplomatic matters. And just to be harassed for so many hours, I think it might be quite. Quite a tactic used by the Chinese government to hassle citizens of India, and especially from Arunachal, because it was the weekend as well. So they know that government offices are closed in such hours. But yeah, so that's how it all panned out. And I'm just grateful to Mr. Rajat and his team from the Indian embassy who helped me get out of there finally around 10:30 p.m. So I was stuck for quite a while there.
This brings me to the last question, ma'am. Any expectation and assurances given from the side on any expectations going forward? What would be your take?
I would say, I mean, obviously, I want to raise this awareness that, residents, and especially residents of the northeast of India, should not face such, harassment in terms of being called and being told that you are not part of the country that you're so proudly a citizen of. And obviously, would like the government of India to raise this on a diplomatic level with the Chinese authorities, that, this is not something a regular citizen can resolve. Me saying whether or not it is part of India or China. Of course, we are part of India. I mean, we don't have any voting rights. We don't have any rights in China. We don't have any access to public funds in China. So we are obviously not part of that. We speak should Hindi. We don't understand C of Chinese. We are all Indian. And I would just like to request the government of India to take strict actions against Chinese authorities and the government on such matters. Yes.